Picture this: a freezing, snow-covered field in northern England. The air is thick with the screams of men, the clash of steel, and the whistle of arrows cutting through the storm. This is not a scene from a movie, it's real. This is the Battle of Towton, fought on March 29, 1461. A single day of carnage so brutal, it remains the bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil. But what drove tens of thousands of men to slaughter each other in such a savage way? Who were the key players in this deadly Game of Thrones? And what can we learn from this harrowing chapter of history? Strap in, because today we're diving into the chaos, the courage, and the cruelty of the Battle of Towton. To understand the Battle of Towton, we need to step back into the world of 1461. England was a kingdom in turmoil, caught in the grip of the Wars of the Roses, a decades-long civil war between two rival branches of the royal family, the House of Lancaster and the House of York. The Lancasters, symbolized by the red rose, were led by King Henry VI, but Henry was no warrior king. Plagued by mental illness, he was often described as weak and indecisive, leaving the kingdom vulnerable to power struggles. His wife, Margaret of Anjou, was the real force behind the throne, a fierce and determined woman who would stop at nothing to protect her family's claim. On the other side were the Yorks, represented by the White Rose. Their leader was the young and ambitious Edward, Earl of March, who would later become Edward IV. Edward was everything Henry was not: charismatic, bold, and a natural leader on the battlefield. For the average Englishman, life was a daily struggle. Peasants worked the land under the shadow of war while towns were overcrowded and disease-ridden. But for the nobility, this was a time of opportunity. Loyalties shifted like the wind, and alliances were forged and broken with shocking speed. It was a world where power was won not just by diplomacy but by the sword. Towton, a quiet village in Yorkshire, was an unlikely stage for such a monumental clash. Nestled in the rolling hills of northern England, it was a place of farms and fields, far removed from the political intrigue of London. But its strategic location made it a key battleground. The area around Towton was open and flat, perfect for the large armies of the time to maneuver, but it was also exposed with few natural defenses. On that fateful day in March, the peaceful countryside would be transformed into a hellscape of blood and death. The Battle of Towton began on Palm Sunday, March 29, 1461. The weather was horrific. A snowstorm raged, reducing visibility and turning the ground into a slippery, blood-soaked mire. The Lancastrians, numbering around 30,000, held the high ground. Their forces were a mix of seasoned soldiers and reluctant conscripts, many of whom had been forced to fight. The Yorkists, with roughly 25,000 men, were positioned below. They were led by Edward, who had rallied his troops with promises of victory and glory. The battle began with a deadly exchange of arrows. The Yorkist archers, taking advantage of the wind, fired volleys that rained down on the Lancastrians. The Lancastrian archers, firing against the wind, found their arrows falling short. This gave the Yorkists a crucial advantage, but the real horror began when the armies clashed in hand-to-hand combat. Swords, axes, and maces tore through flesh and bone. The snow turned to slush, stained red with blood. Men slipped and fell, only to be trampled underfoot. The fighting lasted for hours, with no quarter given. By the end of the day, the Yorkists emerged victorious, but the cost was staggering. Estimates suggest that up to 28,000 men died at Towton, nearly 1% of England's population at the time. Towton was brutal for several reasons. First, the weather was horrific. Snow, wind, and freezing temperatures made fighting even more grueling. Second, the sheer scale of the battle was unprecedented. Third, the hatred between the two sides ran deep. This wasn't just a battle for the throne, it was a fight for survival. But perhaps the most chilling aspect was the aftermath. The Lancastrian forces were pursued and cut down as they fled, with many drowning in the Cockbeck River. The Yorkists showed no mercy, and the river was said to have run red with blood. Now let's go over 7 incredible facts about the Battle of Towton. Number 1. Largest battle on English soil. Towton is believed to be the largest and bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil. With an estimated 50,000 to 60,000 soldiers clashing, it was a monumental event that dwarfed other medieval battles. The sheer number of participants and the scale of the carnage make it a unique and horrifying chapter in English history. Number 2. The longbow's deadly role. The longbow was the weapon of choice, with archers firing up to 12 arrows per minute. The Yorkist archers in particular used the wind to their advantage, raining death upon the Lancastrian forces. The longbow's range and power were devastating, and it played a crucial role in the Yorkist victory. Number 3. Mass graves. Archaeologists have discovered mass graves near Towton, revealing the horrific injuries sustained by the soldiers. These graves provide a grim snapshot of the battle's brutality, with many skeletons showing signs of severe trauma, including crushed skulls and severed limbs. Number 4. A battle in a blizzard. The battle took place during a snowstorm, adding to the chaos and misery. The freezing temperatures and poor visibility made fighting even more grueling, and the snow turned to slush, stained red with blood. The weather conditions were so harsh that they became a defining feature of the battle. Number 5. Brother against brother. Many families were divided, with brothers fighting on opposite sides. The Wars of the Roses were as much about personal loyalties as they were about political power, and the Battle of Towton saw countless heartbreaking instances of family members killing each other. Number 6. The Blood Meadow. The field where the battle took place is still known as the Blood Meadow today. This name is a haunting reminder of the slaughter that occurred there, and it serves as a powerful symbol of the battle's legacy. And number 7. A turning point. Towton marked the beginning of Edward IV's reign, but it didn't end the Wars of the Roses. While the Yorkist victory was decisive, the conflict would continue for another 2 decades, with more battles, betrayals, and bloodshed. Towton was a turning point, but it was far from the end. In 1461, the Battle of Towton solidified Edward IV's claim to the throne, but it didn't bring peace. The Wars of the Roses would rage on for another 2 decades, tearing England apart. In the modern world, Towton serves as a grim reminder of the cost of civil war. It's a symbol of the brutality of medieval warfare, and the lengths people will go to for power. Archaeologists and historians continue to study the battle, uncovering new details about the lives and deaths of those who fought there. The Battle of Towton was a day of unimaginable horror, but it's also a story of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring human spirit. What do you think about this brutal chapter in history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into medieval history, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that button and join us for more fascinating stories from the past. Until next time, stay curious, and remember, history isn't just about dates and names, it's about the people who lived, fought, and died to shape the world we live in today.